Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Marketo-Fu. My name is Joe Reitz, and what we are going, gosh, the cadence of all these sounds the same starting, right? Like, I gotta come up with a better intro. But today we're going to be talking about the waiting game. So you're probably familiar with wait steps in some way, shape, or form. If you have ever done a drip nurture campaign, basically what you would do is send an email, add a wait step of a day, a week, whatever, and then send another email. And you can get even fancier from there and add in a certain criteria like send email 1, wait. If they clicked, send email 2. If they didn't click, remove from flow or do any other logic to make sure the right person gets the right message kind of at the right time. Now, where a simple wait step is just like a flat, 1 day, 1 hour, one week, 1 month, whatever. An advanced wait step lets you get a little more granular. So you can do something like wait 2 days, but the sending date has to be like on a Monday or something like that, or a work day. So like if they click on something on Wednesday and you wanted to wait 3 days, but you don't want them to get something on Saturday, then you could use an advanced wait step to make sure they get it first thing Monday. Simple example, but what I'm going to walk you guys through today is actually something that came up recently with a colleague and a client, is how to set up like a annual birthday program. So I'm going to kick us over into Marketo to kind of illustrate how an advanced wait step could work in practice and kind of how you even adjust it. So let's look at my screen here. That never gets old. All right. Okay, so into the Fathom sandbox. And what we have here is a basic program. You see I have my normal folder structure and my normal best practice approach to setting up the program. We have a couple emails in here that we could be running an A/B test on. In theory, I would have progression statuses in here, some reporting in here. But where we are going to focus our efforts today is in the sending campaigns. So you see here that I have, if you know your icons, this is a request campaign, and this is a recurring batch. So in this scenario, what we want to do is send an email every year on someone's birthday. So we can't just run a trigger for, is the lead's birthday. So we kind of have to maybe a little bit outsmart Marketo in this. So there's a couple ways we can do this, and I'm going to show you those. There might be more ways to do this, but these are the ones I've always used. So, and they work. So the first thing, it's kind of backwards, is you need to set up the reoccurring batch. And what this is going to do is essentially feed into the request campaign. So in the batch, so for the smart list, we simply have, because we're talking about birthday, date of birth is not empty. And then they're going to go on to the flow. And the flow here is simply to request the campaign. Now, that's not too shocking. Nothing crazy there. But the thing that you need to pay attention to here is each lead can only flow through once every 364 days, because if we did 365, they would come up every 2 years and not every one. So we want to make sure that they don't trigger the request campaign more than once a year, but they actually do trigger it by their birthday. So that's important. And then you want to make sure that you schedule the reoccurrence to happen every day, just to make sure everybody could possibly get caught on this. And then since it's requesting this send email campaign here, what this one is saying is it's a trigger, and it's simply listening for is the campaign requested. Now, the reason we couldn't do what we're about to do in the flow on this request campaign is because you can't use tokens in a program, in a batch, in a smart campaign. It's a batch. You can only use tokens in the flow when it's a trigger. So this is obviously a trigger. We're going to use tokens. So the flow, you'll see that we have a wait step that's probably a little different than what you're used to looking at, where it says lead date of birth at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on their next anniversary. And then we're going to send an email. So from this campaign, if their date of birth was not empty, they would drip into this smart campaign and then basically wait, like immediately, just wait until it's their birthday and then get the email. But how did we set this up? Well, let's delete it and I'll walk you back through it. So you drag in a wait step. Where is it? Oh, you drag in a wait step like you normally would. You can enter whatever right here. What you may not have ever noticed or been aware of, just because it's a giant window, is this little gear icon. It doesn't really scream at you, but you can click it, and then here you are at the advanced weight properties. And this is where I'm saying you could do like the duration. You could change the duration to wait 2 days, but make sure it must end on either the work week or the weekend or whatever is your use case, and you can select the time. You can also select from a given date, or a date token. Now, that's what we want here, because we want to trigger something off of something the lead has done. So I've got some B2C clients that have like an appointment request form. If we wanted to send a follow-up on like the day of, which we will be doing, but if we wanted to send a follow-up on the day of, we would use a date token for the appointment date that they fill out on a form. So we would say lead and then date of birth. Now, one thing about date of birth that I may have forgot to mention was if you have Salesforce, so this field comes in Marketo, it automatically maps to a companion field in Salesforce. I think I'm not actually sure if it's date of birth or birthday or however it's termed in Salesforce. But when you do sync the two, they match up. And then it's just there. But if you're on Dynamics or another CRM, or if you're on another CRM, you aren't integrated to Marketo directly. But if you're on Salesforce, this is basically for you. There might be some slight changes or different process on a different CRM. We're going to say on the date of birth, we're going to do none, because we don't want it to do plus or minus a day or anything like that. If you wanted to do it the day before, you could do minus 1 day. That's fine. But we're going to say none. And then we want to make sure we check this use next anniversary of this date, because we want to make sure that this, is an ongoing thing. So their birthday is going to be in the past, but we're checking this box to say every time this date comes up, we're doing this. And then you can select the time. So, basic benchmarks would say, anything between, for most B2Bs, anything between 9 and 11 is kind of the ideal sending time. But if we wanted to get it to them like first thing in the morning when they like get to work, that might be a good thing. It depends on your use case, but whatever time you want, and you just hit save. And now we have a tokenized date wait step in here that's ready to roll. So what it's going to do is exactly where we started, where they're going to basically on a daily basis, if they haven't flown through it yet, they'll be added to this smart campaign to wait until their birthday and then get an email. So, and if you wanted to get really fancy, you could do the whole, random sample A/B test, add choice, random sample, 50%. And we could do did I call it the same thing? Maybe 0.2. Yeah, so if we wanted to test like a promo versus a regular thing, we could do that here. All the same rich A/B testing stuff you can do. One other thing that I did want to call out, though, is request campaigns scare the sweet bejesus out of me. Like I don't like them just by default, because there's like a million technical reasons why smart campaigns can cause you headaches later. I know they're not super, from like a technical, server load side. I know if you have like tons of these firing, it's not a great idea for your instance. It can really slow things down. So use sparingly, but if you wanted to get around this and just say like, hey, if we just wanted to do something like if a rep ever adds birthday, or if we ever, get that information from a field, we could do this with another trigger. So instead of the Marketo flow action, or maybe in addition to it, we could do data value changes as a trigger. And we could say attribute is date of birth. And if the previous value was empty, then, so if we're going from null to a value, then we'll flow through this campaign. Or, you could even leave this thing out and say if it's just empty. But again, saying that just to say that there are 1,000,001 ways that you can do anything in Marketo, and I have no idea where my window is. There we go. There's 1,000,001 ways you can do anything in Marketo. These are a couple of the ways I've used advanced wait steps in the past, so I hope that that this has been useful for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit them in the comments over in the Marketo community. Again, if this series of videos has been useful to you, please by all means hit subscribe. yeah, and let me know kind of what else you want to see. This was like a serendipitous example of someone having a need and being easily able to document it and kind of walk you through the steps. So I'd be more than happy, and I actually love doing like the practical real world stuff, if at all possible. So again, I've been Joe Wrights. This has been another episode of Marketo-Fu, and we'll talk soon.